Good evening, everyone.
Oh, one moment. Let me get this.
Recording in progress.
There you go. We're ready.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming on this chilly night. I'd like to call to order the Town of Oakland Commission meeting for November 10th, 2025. Everybody quickly stand for the pledge or maintain.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Got it?
Lord, thank you for a gorgeous day today, for the change in temperatures. We thank you for the beauty of Oakland that you have given us. We pray that you'll watch over us tonight, watch over every discussion, every word that comes out of our mouths. Lord, we love you. Thank you for this day. In the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Kathy, good evening.
Good evening. Commissioner Keller.
Here.
Commissioner McMillan.
Present.
Mayor Taylor.
Here.
Commissioner Ramos.
Present.
Okay, you're going.
Okay, and Vice Mayor Satterfield's absent tonight.
Yes. I
All
did.
right, I want to start out a little bit on our presentation, so I'm going to switch it up a little bit and do the proclamation for Veterans Day first. Whereas the town of Oakland honors the bravery and sacrifices of the men and women who have served in the United States Armed Forces, and Veterans Day provides an opportunity for all citizens to express gratitude to those who have defended our freedoms and way of life, and the dedication and service of our veterans reflect the highest values of duty, courage, and selflessness, contributing to the security and prosperity of our nation. And the town of Oakland is proud to stand with our veterans, acknowledging the debt of gratitude we owe to those who have served. Now therefore, I, Shane Taylor, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the town of Oakland, and on behalf of the entire town commission, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2025 as Veterans Day in the town of Oakland, and encourage all residents to join in recognizing the service of our veterans. So, if we have any veterans tonight, if you guys could please stand and be recognized, we really appreciate that. Thank you guys. I'd like to invite up John Hammerstein, who's created this poem, I guess, on Veterans Day.
Yeah,
I'm reading it.
Name and address and all that.
No, you're good.
I was privileged to work at Lockheed Martin for 40 years, and of course, we dealt a lot with military veterans and all that. And anyway, I wrote something, I made a bookmark out of it when I'm out and about. If I see a veteran, I'll hand it to them. I'd like to read it to you all tonight. It says, a soldier is someone who leaves their home, a place that's familiar, safe, and predictable, a place where they can love and be loved, where they can be themselves. The soldier is willing to travel to a foreign land at the risk of being hated, injured, even killed to protect the ones he knows and loves, and the many who do not know him. The soldier is someone who understands what it means to stand in the gap for a stranger, so the stranger will not have to endure what the soldier has to face. A soldier is one who is willing to pay the full price for another's freedom, freedom to be home where they are safe, loved, and to be themselves. Thank a soldier, praise Jesus. I have some of these here. I'll put them on the table over there if anybody wants to take one and share it, especially tomorrow. Please do. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And again, thank you, all you veterans that serve to protect and defend our country. Next moving on is Chief Aaron Eason, one of our favorite police chiefs in town.
Sometimes. Without knocking it off, thank you. Thank you for taking the time and allowing me to be here and recognize our third quarter award recipients. If I could have Corporal Sean Dozer come on. While he's walking up, I'll start reading and I'll read fast, I promise. During the third quarter of 2025, Corporal Dozier exemplified what an Oakland police officer is. What is that, you ask? Well, I'm going to tell you. Corporal Dozier takes all calls for service to heart and sees them through as far as he can, attempting to get closure for victims of all crimes. An example of this is a fraud call in which he responded to. Instead of simply writing a report with basic detail and forwarding to somebody else for follow-up, Corporal Dozier conducted follow-up interviews, looked for inconsistencies within the investigation, and obtained surveillance video from a business which enabled him to determine that a crime had not been committed. This commitment and determination saved several hours of follow-up by an investigator and was able to clear a case for the agency. Additionally, Corporal Dozier remains active within the Oakland community, constantly stopping to speak with residents, visiting Oakland partners, and even finds time for an occasional traffic stop or two on Oakland Avenue. In his current role, Corporal Dozier has made efforts to better himself by attending supervisory training, as well as taking constructive criticism, understanding the intent is to better himself, as well as provide the tools necessary to mentor and lead others. He also serves as the crisis intervention team coordinator. For those reasons and many more, Corporal Sean Dozier is awarded the Oakland Police Department's Officer of the Quarter Award. Now, if I could have Kelly Sims and Stacy Quinn. They are being recognized with what's called the Chief Special Award, and you will hear why this award is being given to them. Stacy Quinn and Kelly Sims take on many responsibilities which keeps the agency afloat. During the past 3 months, both Stacy and Kelly became aware of the upcoming CJIS technical audit, which was last completed in 2022. This is not an easy task and requires agencies to verify compliance with policies from the Florida Crime Information Center, National Crime Information Center, Non-Criminal Justice User Agreement, and the FBI CJIS security policy. Tasks completed included, but were not limited to, ensuring proper personnel screening and security awareness training, maintaining record checks, establishing formal agreements with vendors and contractors to comply with CJIS standards, and regularly reviewing security logs and audits to ensure compliance with CJIS policies. Completion of these tasks took several months of hard work and dedication, while also remaining committed to the many tasks they complete on a day-to-day basis. Trust me when I say nothing fell behind, as their other responsibilities involve social media for the agency and the town, Oakland partners coordination, payroll processing, very important, and so much more. Upon completion of the audit, all items within our responsibility were successfully completed. For the hard work, dedication, management of stress, mainly interacting with me on a daily basis, and completing the CJIS audit, Stacy Quinn and Kelly Sims are awarded the Oakland Police Department's Chief Special Award. Thank you for your time.
You gotta be special to deal with you, Chief.
Mayor, I just want to say, I've said this a couple of times, and Kelly, you haven't been here, but thank you again for taking on the role of the town's social media. You've been doing an awesome job, and since you're actually here in person this time, I wanted to thank you in person for taking that. And Stacey, I know you're a big asset to the team as well. Dozier, on the other hand, no, I'm just kidding. No, you always get I get a lot of great feedback about you in the community, and I appreciate that. I see you on social media. Kelly, thank you so much for taking on that extra responsibility.
All right, thank you. Thanks to everyone on our police force. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to our consent agenda items, and we have 5 items on here tonight. Approval of the 10/28/25 Town Commission regular meeting minutes. The approval to serve alcoholic beverages on Heritage Day 2026. Approval of roadway improvements at the intersection of Oakland Avenue and Daniel Street. Approval of Amendment 2 to the State Revolving Fund Loan Agreement. And approval of the Briley Avenue Septic to Sewer Conversion Work Assignment number 19. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Seeing or hearing none, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as it stands.
Second. the item is the resolution 2025-13, the Town of Oakland Budget Amendment for fiscal year 24-25. Our Finance Director, Gabby.
She's gonna read the resolution.
Oh, yes.
Yes. A resolution of the Town Commission of Oakland, Florida, adopting an amended budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 and providing for conflicts, severability, and an effective date. I have to find your PowerPoint real quick. It's not coming up. It's not there, is it? I don't see it.
You have it.
I did have
Yeah,
it
I saw it right there.
right here. Yeah, there it is. But it wasn't coming out on share. Let me try again. Oh, right here. Yeah, that's it. Okay. It's in my way. Get out of the way. Okay.
Hello. Okay, so I'm Gabby, I'm the Director of Finance, and today I'm going to do a quick presentation on the budget amendments. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to present to the Town Commission and the Town residents a summary of fiscal year 2025 general funds amendments. So the town maintains budgetary compliance at the fund level, so this means that individual departments might be over in their adopted budget, but if the overall total for the town is over what we originally adopted, then a budget amendment is going to be needed. So regardless of how much revenue we brought in, if we spent too much, we have to amend it. As you can see by the numbers here, so our original fiscal year 2025 general fund budget was $9,827,268. Our actual, so what we actually spent was $9,896,850. That's a difference of $69,000. So this is a combination of over and under in different line items due to operational costs, increases in personnel-related expenses such as payroll, increases in cost of supplies and contracted services, as well as timing in departmental spending. So if we got an invoice too late and we couldn't accrue it, and we had to assume it in fiscal year 25, that affects our overall number. So, and as for payroll, that was due to our compensation study that we had. So it wasn't properly aligned in the budget. It was all lumped together into HR when it should have been split amongst all of the departments. So a lot of that had to just get kind of reworked into those departments. So as I mentioned, it's across all the different departments and not just within one. We took all those numbers, including the extra revenue that we received, and then we balanced the budget back out again. So, next slide. Here's a beautiful graph of the revenue that we received. So as you can see, 68% of the revenue was in taxes. This is made up of ad valorem, utility taxes from Duke, and from natural gas vendors and other various sales tax. And then our second biggest revenue source was in intergovernmental revenue. That made up about 13%, and that's made up of different grants, some types of taxes, mostly from the state and the county. And then the rest of it is charges for services, licenses and permits, and then miscellaneous revenue. A good portion of this additional revenue was taken into account for the amendment, and then, can go to the next one, I think.
The next one?
Yeah, so you can see what our original revenue number was 9.6. This doesn't include the $200,000 from reserves, because this is only for the money that we brought in, not the money that we already had existing. So we put in 9.6 for revenues, we actually brought in 10.4, so that gave us a surplus of $855,000. We didn't take that full $855 to amend the budget. We only took about 400 and some change. And so we amended the budget to 10.1 and then left a difference of 381,000 in the revenue. That's going into reserves. These are the actuals for expenditures, which I think we already talked about, the difference for 69,000. And then, you go to the next one. So this is just a breakdown. I know it's a little hard to read and it's a little confusing. It's just because there's a bunch of formulas in there, and so some numbers have to be negative, some have to be positive. But we're just gonna look at the middle column where it says favorable, unfavorable budget variance. The very bottom where it says total, you see the 69,000? You can see how there's negatives and positives that get to that number. So what we did is we went through each of those departments line by line and we cleared everything once after we got the 69 out. And what's left is a positive 200,000, which is the very last number on the last column. That gives us a cushion for any accruals for the end of the year. So I'm working on our audit right now. I have to accrue payroll, and I have to do like PTO and all of that stuff, or old invoices for capital that I have to move around. That affects our bottom line, our bottom expenditures, because I'm posting to those GL codes. So that 200,000 will just make sure that we have a cushion in there, and we're not back in the same boat that we're in. We're gonna have to do another budget amendment for my audit. So it looks good. Whatever isn't used out of that 200,000 after the audit is done, will just go into reserves. So we may not even use that 200, it's just there kind of as a placeholder, and all of it will just go back into reserves. So, that's kind of all I have for the amendment. If you have any questions about what was specifically amended or anything like that, let me know. It is a resolution, so I'm opening it up to the audience in case they have any comments or questions, and then I'll come back.
Any questions from the table? Okay. Anybody have any questions in the audience about the amended budget? No? Good job. Okay.
Old now, or old bookers?
Yeah, all right, so this is a vote, so anybody would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-13, Town of Oakland Budget Amendment for fiscal year 24-25.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you, Gavin.
Okay, bye.
Okay, next on the list is ordinance 2025-05. This is the second reading of ordinance for Briley Farms Phase 2.
This one. Yeah, just wait. This is not. Is that the right? That's not the right. Here it is. Let me just make it. It's not. Okay. Wait a minute, let me go to that. An ordinance of the Town of Oakland, Florida, adopting a First Amendment to the Development Agreement and Preliminary Subdivision Plan for the Briley Farm Phase 2 Plan Development as recorded in the public records of Orange County, Florida, document number 20220374930, on certain real property owned by Briley Land Holdings, LLC, as more particularly described herein, making findings and providing for conflicts, severability, and for an effective date.
Thank you. Brad?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. And Brad Cornelius with Waitron, serving as your contractor town planner, and I also have with me this evening Sarah Masterson. So, quick presentation for you. This is your second reading for the Briley Farm Phase 2 PD amendment. Just real quick. And just again to remind everybody on the background here, Briley Farm is a multi-phase project. We have Phase 1, which was approved about 2 years ago. They're on the east side of the property, and then Phase 2, which is what we're discussing this evening, they're on the west side. Again, what this amendment is for Phase 2 is to reduce the number of lots from 111 to 87 lots, a reconfiguration of the lot arrangement and actually making the lots larger within the project. And also to adopt design guidelines and architectural standards for this project. As we spoke before, the existing development agreement that the town has for this project, it references design guidelines and architectural standards, but they don't exist. So this amendment would now actually adopt those and implement those design standards for this project. In terms of the highlights, again, it's the reduction of residential lots, the design guidelines. A couple important things so everybody's aware. In the development agreement amendment, the developer has agreed to pay the town $85,000 for transportation improvements, and they still will be paying road impact fees as well. So the town will receive an $85,000 payment that the town can use in any way they find needed for transportation. The good news is it's not limited by restrictions as if it was impact fees. You can use these however you deem needed for the town. Again, the tree mitigation, they will provide appropriate tree mitigation for the trees that will be removed. And also, they will be making a payment of $193,333 towards the original lift station. And again, they will be paying impact fees for that. And I do apologize, I have $199 on my slide, but it is $193,000 in the development agreement. In terms of design standards, again, I won't go into detail here, but just to remind you all again, what they're doing is setting up design standards for the different lots based on their location. This is exactly what was previously approved by the town commission for phase 1. So this is mirroring exactly what you've already approved in phase 1. So you have the different lot types based on the location and that have their own standards and potential lot layouts, lot G, lot H. And then in terms of the architecture, again, it's colonial revival, Florida vernacular, and French farmhouse. And I will say it one more time, this is exactly what you had already approved on phase 1. So this will continue that same development pattern into phase 2 and be consistent throughout the project, which will be a good thing for the town, I believe. There's also standards for their outbuildings, for their garages and other things like that. They also have the same restrictions on these outbuildings as in phase 1, meaning if they do some kind of like accessory dwelling unit within them, they're not allowed to have full kitchens, and they're not allowed to have anyone other than owners or their guests stay in there. That's actually part of their own HOA documents, but we have it documented within this approval as well. So, and then finally is on the preliminary subdivision plan. Again, this is the layout for phase 2. I don't have this one highlighted like I did at the first hearing, but I do want to point out again, on the west side of this project, you see the large tracts, it's about 11 acres. That will be dedicated to the town, will be added to the open nature preserve. And then also there'll be 2 other tracts on the northeast side of the project and also on the south side of the project that will be town parks. That will be dedicated to the town as well. That will be town parks. And what I'll also say is the one town park will allow a connection from within here into Open Nature Preserve in the future if the town desires to do that, because it would go through the town's property. So that's a nice positive. And also the regional lift stations in that northeast corner, again, that tract would be dedicated to the town. Just as a reminder, you did consider this at your October 28th meeting for your first reading, and there was no recommendations for conditions or changes as it was presented, and you did approve it as presented, which is the same as what's being presented tonight. And if you do approve it this evening, what the next steps would be for them, it would be to go through the final engineering review with both the town as well as the Water Management District. And then once that is complete, then go through the final plat to get those lots and all those tracts platted for this project. And again, your staff recommendation is that we do recommend approval of this as presented. We do find it compliant with the comprehensive plan and your land development code. And I'm here to answer any questions, and the development team is also here as well if you have any questions of them.
All right, thanks, Brad. Anyone on the table have any questions or comments?
No, like I stated previously, this is going to be something that we're going to be all very proud of. So I think they did a great job.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. We'll open it up to the audience if anybody has any comments or questions about this project. Okay. Hearing none, we'll close the public comment section and bring it back here and entertain a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to accept ordinance 2025-05. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all good.
Thank you very much.
All right, next is ordinance 2025-06, the second reading of ordinance for the Fourth Street Village.
An ordinance of the Town of Oakland, Florida, adopting a First Amendment to the Development Agreement and Preliminary Subdivision Plan for the Fourth Street Village Plan Development as recorded in the public records of Orange County, Florida, document number 2024-0339-438, on certain real property owned by Oakland West 50 LLC, as more particularly described herein, making findings and providing for conflicts, severability, and for an effective date.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. And Brad Quinn is the Insurance Service Contractor for Town Planner, and again, Sarah Masson is with you this evening as well. As you stated, our next hearing is for the Second Amendment, or I'm sorry, the First Amendment to the Fourth Street Village Plan Development for this project. Again, quick background on this, as y'all recall, this project was approved by the Town Commission in 2024. On this property here, that's on the southeast corner of State Road 50 and 4th Street. It's approximately 21 acres in size. The developer came in with a revised plan from what was previously approved, and that's why we're here this evening for this amendment to the plan development. As you may recall, when we had the first reading of this on October 28th, the Town Commission had several conditions that they wanted the applicant to look at and come back with to you all this evening. Those that were consider the reorientation of the multifamily building, provide more architectural detailing for the buildings on State Road 50, inclusion of brick-on commercial buildings, the minimum, put the condition about the minimum of 30,000 square feet of dark shell commercial construction before a certificate of occupancy of the multifamily, and also to reevaluate access to the project. So my presentation is to address each of those. And I know the applicant has a presentation, we'll expand on what I'm going to say. So first, related to the reorientation of the multifamily, there was a question or comment by the commission about potentially flipping it around, having the back to 4th Street. What the applicant came back with is instead of doing that, they are going to provide an 8-foot screen wall that'll go in that opening area facing 4th Street that also have landscaping on the outside, and those plans are detailed in the information that they submitted for tonight's hearing. That will then provide the screening, both visual and noise, out to 4th Street, and as your staff, we do think that's an appropriate response to the concern that the commission raised at the first hearing. In terms of the building elevations, they did make revisions to them at your seats. Those are the most current revisions that were submitted to me on this past Friday. So they were not in your agenda packet, but you have them this evening. And that's what's in my presentation. And again, the applicant will give you more details about this. But what they did do is they did include brick accents on their commercial buildings, both internally and externally. And they've also, I think, enhance the exterior of these buildings on State Road 50. Again, these show the representation the developer provided. The yellow highlighted areas that you see are the brick accents that will be added to many of those commercial buildings as part of this project, throughout the project. This is showing some more of that. You can see that the brick accent would be added. Again, these are the updated look and elevations of the buildings. And these are in your package at your desk today as well. And you can see what they've done with them. These haven't changed too significantly other than having the brick accents to them. This is a view of one of the buildings that would be fronting on 50. Again, there's more articulation in there, I think more architectural look, and I think it does enhance the look of that face of the building on State Road 50. Again, more of what you see internal to the project, more of the design. This again is the multifamily, no change from what you saw last time. Still that same design, with the exception of now there'll be that 8-foot screen wall there closing off that opening going out to 4th Street. This shows the area around the event area with the small stage, entertainment area, whatever you want to call it, with the surrounding buildings that would have like cafes and small shops and things. So that shows that layout and that look. Again, more of the building design. More of the design. And again, on the top, you see more of what would be fronting on State Road 50. And you see there's more articulation, it appears, and I think it looks better than what it did before. That's what before you this evening. Again, some more of that out there on State Road 50, there at the top of the screen. You can see that. More of the building, again, some more multifamily. That's a lot. And this would be the back of the stage, and also the front of the stage, the sides of the stage. So that's the building part of your conditions you asked them to look at. The next condition is related to the minimum 30,000 square feet of commercial. That one, we had a lot of back and forth with the developer over the last week. And I apologize, I was missing that page when I printed today because we didn't come to a final on that one until this morning. But this is one that we as staff, as well as the developer, we all agreed on. So the way the condition is proposed within what Ms. Elise just provided you all is this condition requires the completion of the dark shell construction of those 3 event buildings, which is about 10,000 square feet in total. Commercial building A and commercial building B, which is about 8,000 and 12,000 square feet, that gets you to the 30,000 square feet, before a certificate of occupancy is issued for the multifamily buildings. But we did allow for some flexibility. So we are saying that there is some flexibility to substitute building commercial building C, D, or E, which are the ones that are further to the east, that basically the 2 that front on State Road 50, then the other 3rd building, as long as there's still 30,000 square feet of dark shell construction completed. So basically what this condition says, you're still gonna do the dark shell build out of the event center, but they can swap out building C, D, or E for A or B, depending on the market and who comes to them. But ultimately, we want to assure there's 30,000 square feet of dark shell constructed before they get the CO for multifamily. Also, what's important under this one is, and the developer acknowledges this, that all the required parking, the stormwater, all the landscape, all the site work for these projects would have to be completed as part of this development in the beginning as well, anyhow, prior to any CO. So there will not be like development constructed that won't have sufficient parking that they would need for that segment of development. It would be done together. Also, so everyone is aware, what does dark shell building mean? It means that they're completing the exterior walls, the roof, the windows, and putting in the doors, but they're not completing the interior build out of the building itself. So from the outside, it'll look like a complete building. On the inside, it still will need to be built out. If you want to know what an example of that looks like, that's actually what's happening right now at Oakland Exchange. Right now, they're just building the exterior shells. They'll be coming in after that with interior build-outs. So that would be the same kind of development pattern that's happening currently. I already talked about the site development part. And also, what this does allow for is some flexibility with the approval of the town manager in terms of some small adjustments to this design, basically a 10% threshold, which is a threshold you already have in your land development code for administrative approval of changes to projects or to development that could be administratively approved. This would also provide the opportunity for small tweaks or changes to this the town manager has the authority to approve it, or on the other side, not to approve it, if it doesn't meet the intent of the design and the purpose of this project. So there is the guardrails there with that. And also, just to clarify, that switch out of the buildings that we spoke about in the first part of this condition, that also requires the approval of the town manager. So there are oversight on that happening. So we do have that guarantee at 30,000 square feet of commercial prior to the CO of multifamily. In terms of the traffic and site access, we had a lot of discussion about this in the first hearing. What I want to point out is a new condition that is in the development agreement that addresses this concern of site access, is we put in a monitoring requirement for traffic for this project. So what's in the development agreement, and the developer has agreed to this, is that after they fully build out that 30,000 square feet of commercial, so not just the shell, but the full build out, and it's operating for a year, because we want to give it time to start. We don't want to do the traffic count the day it opens. We want to give it time to start. But within a year of that first build out, or after a year of that first 30,000 square foot build out, they will do a traffic count and provide us updated traffic data for this project. Then we can evaluate against the traffic study that was done to make sure the traffic is falling within what's been projected. And quite honestly, we're hoping it's going to be less than what's projected ultimately for this project. The next stop in the development would be then after they finish the 190 unit multifamily building and it's fully built out, it's operating for a year, they'll do another traffic count, basically at the driveways, showing where the traffic is being generated, again, for us as the town to evaluate it and make sure it's within the parameters that we approve this under for these access points. And then the last check would be at full build out of the entire project. 1 year after full build out, there'd be one more check where they would take the traffic counts, we would check it against the traffic estimates that were provided to us in the analysis that said there was no need for other access improvements, and assure that it's still in line with those previous approvals. So we have monitoring of this project, that if this project generates significantly more traffic than what is anticipated, we have an ability to have the developer come in and relook at this traffic, their access to their property, and make adjustments if it's needed. So I think that's a good way for us as a town to help, particularly for the folks there on 4th Avenue to the south, to make sure that what the developer's saying, what we're saying as your staff, is what happens, and it's not worse than what we think is going to happen. And if it is, we have the ability to address it within this condition. So in terms of the preliminary subdivision plan, again, this is what you saw last time. Because they didn't flip the building, there's no change to this, with the exception of it does show the 8-foot screen wall there in that open area of the multifamily building. So it's still the same square footage, approximately 73,500 square feet of commercial office and 190 multifamily units. So that's also part of this approval. Also, this plan does still maintain from a year ago the condition the commission put on this project to keep the commercial on the north side of this project and push the multifamily to the south side of the project by the turnpike. So it's still fully compliant with that. It's also compliant with the height, with the 4 stories for the commercial being put, to the back along the turnpike. The buildings on the front are showing basically 1 story there along the front. All the roads internal to this project would now be private. There's no longer required for them to dedicate that east-west road through there. Those would be a private road, but I will say, if there's an opportunity in the future to extend that private road to the west of 4th Street, where this is lined up, their private road, it would make a connection to that new road that could go to the west. So it is set up for that to happen. So that's a positive thing. Utility services provided by the town. And for this one, we actually have an actual count of tree mitigation of 1,224 deviations of diameter at base height of inches of trees. And so what they will be doing is when they come in with their final engineering plan and final landscape plan, they'll determine how much of that will be replanted. Anything that they are short on their replanting, they would then pay the town a mitigation fee for what's remaining for the trees for that. If you do approve this evening, again, similar to the other one, their next step would come through the final engineering plans with the town and with the water management district. And if they're gonna do any plating, they would do the plating as well with the next steps for this. And again, as your staff, we do recommend approval. We do find this compliant with your comprehensive plan and your land development code. We'd be happy to answer your questions. Again, the development team's here, and I know they have a presentation for you as well.
Thank you, Brad. Hey, real quick, Brad, I think there was a question last time about, 4th Street and the improvements of 4th Street, or widening of 4th Street. There's a little bit of widening. You wanna just address that real quick?
Yes, sir, yes, sir. So from their driveway to 50, they are going to widen at least 24 feet. And then their plans actually show a future dedication of another 30 feet if it would be needed in the future for that. So there will be improvements from their driveway to 50. And also what I would say is, as your planner, I think it's good to have this driveway where it is because it limits the ability of traffic to come further back into that neighborhood. Unless somebody gets lost, they want to go sightseeing or something. But the main traffic will not go beyond that driveway.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so anybody on the table have anything, we'll ask them. Oh, do you?
I want to wait for the presentation.
Yeah.
You wanna wait?
The presentation.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Okay. All right, very good.
Good evening, Tara Tenro, Lounge Law 215 North York Drive, Orlando, Florida. That was a very detailed presentation, so I'm going to try not to reiterate everything that he said, but I want to make sure we give you the details that you all requested last time. We can click to the second slide, please. So these were the 6 criteria. We wanted to make sure that our actual designers and architects were here today if there were specific questions. So I just want them to come up and talk a little bit about what we did architecturally, because I'm not sure that pictures always explain the depth of detail that and consideration that went into the project.
Good evening, guys. I'm part of the architects and designers for the project. I want to talk a little bit about what we did on the back house of the 2 large buildings facing December 15. We heard from the last hearing, you guys wanted a little bit more alterations into materials and a little bit more playfulness for the elevations. I mean, keep in mind, I mean, this is back house, and I know it's difficult to address the building. I mean, we talk about adding glazing on the back house, the buildings. There's a lot of complications by adding glazing, only because we have fire ratings that we need to respect. I mean, and glazing, when you add a glazing on the back house, it shows either if it's not spandrel glass, which is your fake glass, it shows the function of the back house of these spaces, which is shelving, electrical paneling. I mean, the back house of these guys, they need the space for a whole bunch more reasons, right? Security was another one, and so on. And we design installations based on kind of movement, architectural movements, proportions. We definitely section these long walls into piers, and you have trees, you have shadows, you have massing. We're going to follow the rules in terms of signage, and there's got to be a signage. We haven't found anything on the regulations yet, but we'll keep looking. And we're going to follow those as well for the back house signage of this storefronts, this back house of the building. We're also adding open landscaping. We're playing with the landscaping based on the green corridor as well. And that pretty much talks about what we've been working on the back house of these buildings. Yeah.
Thanks.
Can I ask some
Yeah.
questions?
If there's any specific architectural questions, we're happy to have.
Sure.
We'll answer those.
Can you go back to the slide in the back of the house?
Yes.
Is that pilaster on the first 8 feet, the awning, is that brick that you guys added? Does it
Yes.
indicate what it is?
Yes, that's the brick, those are brick elements that we added to the elevations, previous to the previous presentation, yes.
Thank you.
I just want to say respectfully, the fact that you call it back of house, which I understand is just a term, it's the entrance to our town, that corner. So, that's my concern with that detailing along 50 is that it can't look back of house. So we need, I see a few changes here. I know we talked about signage. I'm not sure exactly what our code says about signage, but I think that we just have to be very aware that although, yes, it is back of the house and that it is, all of really the frontage of those and the beautiful parts of that are all gonna be facing inward, but that Main Street right there, especially that 4th Street intersection, at some point as we develop our town, is going to be the entrance to our town. So that's why we're very critical about what's being done along 50 there and in that corner. So I think we need to make every attempt we can to make that aesthetically attractive and very un-back of house looking.
Yeah, absolutely, and we are definitely with you guys, I mean, the fact that we call it back of house is because it is the service area of
I
the
understand
tenants. I mean, it's not diminutive, we're not trying to play it down. The fact that every building needs a back of house, right? Everybody needs a service door and everybody needs, so to my opinion, I mean, I've done a lot of projects everywhere. And to me, I mean, this is a very good looking.
But there won't be service doors on there, will there? Will they really actually be coming into the back of those buildings from that frontage along 50?
We have service doors because we need a secondary access,
Okay.
egress access.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, it's all based on fire, and the fire marshal is gonna be very unhappy.
Because it's very hard to see, are the doors under the awnings, or I don't see anything that looks like doors in the,
Yeah,
okay,
every
that's my
awning,
question. Okay.
exactly, every awning, every time you see an awning,
Okay.
but I mean, again, I mean, this rendering tries to show that we are thinking about screening those areas. We don't want to see doors, right, with no glazing, for example. So I understand your concerns because it's also our concern. We want to make sure, because this building faces inward, right?
Right.
That is our concern. I mean, normally, retail 101, the front of the house needs to face the most congested road, right? But on the same token, I mean, we have to orient it inward. So we're still working on the back house. We're still thinking that this is, for what I've seen, this is very, very well done.
Well, what you just said even concerns me more, screening. Like, what is our process, Brad? Will they come back? I mean, I know architectural review has reviewed this, but I just want to make sure that, again, I understand the term back of house, I understand what you're saying, but again, this is such a major thoroughfare, and, I think about, buildings along like 1792 through Winter Park that, are right on 1792, but their frontage, I mean, they face outward. I understand we have a little bit of a different situation because these buildings face inward, but we have definitely got to think about what this looks like aesthetically as people are driving through our town and what it looks like.
So Commissioner, the way the process is that they are going through concurrently the design review process. That's why they went through an appearance review board coming to you. So if the town commission approves what they're presenting tonight without any other conditions tied to it, that's what we would evaluate it against when they would come in for building permit. It would not come back to you. I'll say that. Now, what I say, and the town attorney can help me here, you could condition that. Potentially, if that's something that's very important to you as a commission. To say the final, absolutely final, before they go to And that would come in at building permitting time, that's further down the road, that they need to come back to you one last time before building permit. And just to you all's town commission, not through the whole process.
Okay, because I'll be honest, I don't love it. I mean, I don't feel like we've really made a lot of change. I mean, I know that we've kind of, looked at this before, but, like we talked about with the signage, and again, I'm not sure what our code says for signage, it's making sure that things look consistent and inviting. I want it to look inviting because I want the businesses that are in there to also be successful, obviously, but I just want to make sure that we aesthetically have something that adds to our town and doesn't detract from it. And the project on the whole, like I said, I'm thrilled with moving the multifamily to the rear and things like that. I think we just have to find a place.
Commissioner, on the amount of signage that could potentially be allowed there under your code is 1 square foot for 1 linear foot of building frontage. It's very large, so we do not want them to do that. We don't want them, what they're showing there would be more in line with what would be more appropriate. But your code has a very healthy signage allowance, especially on 50.
Juan, can you define screening? As the Commissioner asked, what do you mean by screening more? Landscaping?
The landscaping adds a lot of screening, and the lighting also will be another factor. I mean, I understand, and that's all the points that we're talking right now, it's also our concern. I mean, keep in mind, we want this building to be acceptable, and we all love it, right? I mean, we want that's our goal. And then the lighting is gonna be there as well. I mean, it's not, the fact that you're looking at an elevation flat like this, it's gonna be the first time we're gonna see it this way. So keep in mind that, there's gonna be a lot more movement on that elevation based on the real life, from the real life to a drawing. I mean, the building is gonna change drastically.
I'll tell you one thing, I've seen a lot of back of house of commercial, and this is one of the best looking ones. And with all that multi-cladding with shades of pilasters and siding and stucco and brick, first of all, you added the brick, which is our signature style. And for those of you in the audience who weren't here during the time that Mike Satterfield and Joseph and everybody went up against Racetrack, I mean, they waited 9 years to get the approval to finally have what they have, when they put that brick, and it looks awesome. In my opinion, that brick that you guys added, and those accents, now the signage, I mean, you guys put a solid color. I don't know if we can put that into our agreement to say, all signs are black, whether it's, Panera's, Nike, or whatever, because that gives it consistency and it looks attractive than the multicolored, they look almost like I don't want to say.
Commissioner, you could condition that. You felt that.
If we could do that, because I like the consistency of the color of the signage. And I know that you guys have done a lot already for this building. I mean, I think it's attractive. I don't know how much more you can make of the back look like the front, unless you switch the buildings to the front.
Yeah,
And some of the buildings are facing the front, not all of them.
That's being our challenge.
Yeah, no buildings.
There's some that are on parking lot facing the front, at the back of the house is towards the apartment. Towards that apartment, so that middle section, those are facing the front, the back house is facing the.
Oh, with the parking lot front.
With the parking lot, yes.
You're right.
There's a portion of it.
So there's a 3D right there with the, landscaping, and then if you put some nice lighting on the wall, shade lighting, I've seen back of houses, and that looks pretty good.
This one?
Any other questions?
Mayor, just a point, if you want to have anything, if you want it to come back to you, before actual construction, you need to put that in your motion, and that can be put into the agreement. And I know that the attorney was indicating that she didn't think that we could control the color. And I'm very familiar with the case law you're talking about. It is so important to the town. If you'll notice the racetrack that is over here, it does not have the signature red line around it. And that's why it took, 9 years, and a lot of litigation, which I was involved in, and we prevailed. So, need to, if you want that, you need to put it in the motion.
Thank you.
And I just wanna say, I think that's a challenge for tenants. I understand maybe the banding, I've had that done a lot of gas station sites too, and the banding around canopies has always been one of the big sticking points for local governments. I think it will be difficult for us to get top tier tenants who have no control over their color. You know, I mean, it's like telling, obviously a Target's not going here, but telling a Target they can't have a red sign would be very difficult for us to attract some of those great names that we want to come in. We're happy to comply in terms of the signage, you know, code as we're showing it, but I think it would.
I've seen it done, and I can bring you examples of multiple shopping centers where they have a solid color. Maybe not Target, because that's a big, commercial box office, but the rest of them are not. I've seen the multiple different, stores that have one color based on their commercial.
And I appreciate, it would be, in my opinion, and our clients' opinion, it'd be very difficult to have that be a condition for us. We would appreciate being able to have some flexibility with those tenants. You know, the sign package that you're showing, as you heard, is already substantially smaller than what otherwise could go on that type of linear frontage, and we would just appreciate that flexibility to be able to attract in some of those tenants, keeping in mind that there is an eye towards the aesthetic appeal of the overall project too, to make sure. And then what you've seen here on the renderings too is an assumed amount of breakup. We don't know what that tenant mix could be. We could have somebody come in that takes up a lot more space, or what you see as that breakup of space too could be exactly how it's shown. But these are estimates of what we think those tenant spaces could look like if we look them out.
Could you go back to the elevation picture? See, those signs right there have a solid color, and they're very attractive. That would be a good thing for us to drive by. I've seen that happen multiple times around Florida.
So, thanks. I just, in my opinion, if you're trying to attract an Advent or Orlando Health, they have their branding, on that. So I think if you're trying to attract those type of tenants, they might come in and argue the fact that can get our sign up. Same with, national chains like a Jersey Mike's or something, that would have that. I think I would be more inclined to regulate the amount of signage that would go on that backside versus saying, okay, you're saying 1 square foot of signage per linear foot, 1 linear foot of building, it's pretty large. And then maybe regulate, is Advent Health, okay, you get, 3 feet or 4 feet front behind over your space or whatever. And those guys may come in and take up, a whole building. You never know. So that's how I would approach it that way.
Makes sense.
Anyone, did you have some more you wanted to talk about? Sorry.
No, yeah, I
Was there
did.
any more questions on architecture and signage or anything? No? Okay.
Thank you. The next, I think one more, please. The next one, was the reorientation. I think this one more.
Okay, yeah, considering the reorientation of multifamily, before we showed this to you guys, we had some study and we were playing with different options, right? Like any other design tasks. And the way we're showing it right now for us works the best only because of the pool and the clubhouse orientation, pretty much. It's as we maximize the sun for the pool deck with this orientation. It's all year long, and pools here in Florida, I mean, they're pretty much usable all year long. So about the noise, true. We added, and we're willing to work out a wall to kind of screen that noise that landscaping can. And we're also adding both landscaping on both sides of the wall. Because keep in mind, I mean, vegetation is good to absorb that noise and not let it bounce off of any hard surfaces, right? So we thought about that too. We also, because we're adding a wall, we also adding fire truck access, because now it's an enclosed area, so we need to keep the fire marshal happy. and pedestrian access as well. Now that we have that wall there, but it's gonna be all screened.
I'm sorry, so the wall, if the wall wasn't there, and it was just landscaping, then would you need the fire access as well?
Yes.
You would?
Throughout, yes.
So there was gonna be a driveway, a fire access driveway there?
Yeah, even if it's not a driveway, we'll screen it with some pavers, and then that'll be approved by, it'll be the resistance for a fire truck access.
So that ends up being a decorative gate?
Absolutely.
That has a lock on it?
Yeah.
And all that? Okay.
Yes.
Because I think when we talked, the multifamily was gated, right? There was an arm, there was a way to get in and out, right? Yeah.
Well, one of the main concerns that I brought, and thank you so much for the response and the consideration, mostly for the residents across the street on 4th Street. That was my consideration, that was my concern for that noisy travel. And I thank you very much for addressing it and adding that wall for the sound and that landscaping for the sound rating. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Almost done, I promise. So I'm not gonna read the whole developer condition that was shown, but that 30,000 square feet of commercial, I think we have sufficiently written out a clarification condition that will guarantee we get that 30,000 square feet before a CO for the multifamily can be developed. And so we put in all the square footages of every building to be sure that it will equal 30,000, and we're only counting the actual building areas themselves. The next change again, or the question was that to ensure adequate parking was provided for that first 30,000 square feet of commercial development. This was already in the underlying DA. So the underlying DA had a section 7H that provided in no case will a phase be developed that cannot, along with previous phases, stand alone as an independent project. Meaning, when we bring in a plan for that first 30,000 square feet, it's going to have to show that we have sufficiently parked the 30,000 square feet on its own. And that's true for every subsequent phase. So if we bring another phase in, we have to show that there is enough parking now for that phase, in addition to the phase that we already had approved on the plans. So the first DA took into account that phasing could occur, and that each of those has to stand on its own in terms of all of your development standards being met. And then on the last condition, so, and you heard the discussion about the traffic condition and how there's going to be a reevaluation of access points. I've actually never seen a condition like this. So this is, I've never seen a post-build-out condition where we come back and rerun traffic studies 3 times. So this is about the highest level of assurance I've seen that, you know, we have a traffic study and then we're gonna come back 3 times to make sure that nothing else is being warranted at that intersection, which I think is a very high level of assurance being provided that hopefully mitigates some of those concerns about really what the impacts could look like, because you're gonna know about it in real time after we've already built out, after those cars are already on the road. And that's 1 year after full build out. So it's not like we're doing it the day after we grand open and have 5 cars coming out there. So you're gonna actually see some real parking, you know, some real parking and some real traffic coming out of there to understand. And then again, that puts the onus on the developer and a potential significant financial onus on us, that if we have to come back and make more mitigation or do more improvements, that is a requirement that's now part of the DDA. So we understand that that's an obligation. Your staff proposed the condition as written, and we all agreed on the language ultimately, so that's the one that we put in there to hopefully address that final concern that was raised at the last hearing. So with that, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I would ask that if there is going to be any final conditions of approval that are being added in light of what we've already discussed. So I don't know if we have to have anything other than the conditions as written in the DA as presented, but if there's something in addition to what's in the DA as presented tonight with those text changes that staff had mentioned and that we just showed on the screen, if we would be able to just make sure we talk through them so that we're all of the same understanding.
Okay, thanks. Anyone would you like to talk about what you brought up, the plan and stuff? Looking at the plan and the elevations prior to that.
In your motion.
Well, I have a question.
Oh, yes.
So with the 30,000 square feet and the potential that, okay, so it's my understanding y'all are gonna do the event venue area first, right? And then we've now kind of said that you could do any of the remainder buildings to come up to that 30,000. So, let's just say, for example, you get a large tenant that wants all of building E on the other side of that property. So, will all the parking, all of the space be built out, the whole, basically development along the top there be built out with like the empty spots for the buildings, so that, again, if someone chooses to go to the far side and take that space and that becomes part of your 30,000, and all of that parking and all of that will be built out, or will it just be the parking for that building that will be done?
So we would have to have, well, first we're building out the access off of 50.
Right.
So that access and the entrance features and all of that would be developed out. We would then have to have parking, screening, landscaping, and everything for each of those standalone buildings. So if it was the commercial building E, that would have us building out the frontage. Now, is the question, what's filling in the gaps along the way?
Can you put the,
Yeah, the plans, I think, a couple slides down.
Yeah.
There we go. I think the screen of us is over the building you're talking about, yeah, all right.
Yeah, so we'd also want, like, say, the access to 4th Street, since that's a full, signalized intersection. So it's like, we would have to do, like, say, a connection over to 4th Street. We'd need to have our right in, right out at 50, and then we'd have to have our required parking. We'd have to have our lift station. We'd have to meet our stormwater, which would require us to put in the stormwater pond. Let's say if we had to address your concern of, like, we had that building E, we'd have to have all of our access points plus the stormwater pond plus our lift station. So that kind of covers that, how I think Tara pointed out a couple slides ago, which, like, each phase has to stand alone, and I think that's how we address it, is we have to access the site too.
Right, because like we had talked about, the event space, building A and building B, but now we're opening it up to saying that you can get to that 30,000 a couple of different ways, right? So I just want to make sure that we don't end up with,
That's not our desire either. Like,
Yeah.
we want a good project. It just, sometimes our crystal ball gets a little cloudy, and we like having just in case we need to go straight to building E, we just want to have the opportunity of, let's do E and the event venue, say, while we're still, say, raising one of the other buildings. But since there's a condition on the multifamily, we just don't want to have the multifamily CO held up because.
Right, because you jumped to E
Or
instead of, I understand that, no, and that's great, and I would honestly love to see you have larger tenants than a bunch of little tenants, which I'm sure you would probably like that too. But I just wanted clarification on that, so thank you.
Commissioner Kelly, what I could maybe add too, is if it was, because it would be the event center is the one thing that's not able to get switched out. So really, to be able to meet the parking requirements of providing the event center, I think by and large, you would have that front parking on that north side built out to meet the need of the event center plus building E, if that situation would happen.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
Nope, I don't know if there was any other discussion, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Tara. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Can we open it up? Okay, so it is a public hearing, so does anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? Yes, sir, come on up and add with your name and address.
Ed Kolakowski, 51 Vandermeer Street. So my question to the commission is about number 6. I find it curious that if we're going to do a study after the project is complete, and I would ask the commission what recourse you might have should those studies show some additional traffic mitigation is required. If the project is complete and up and running, how will the commission compel the developer to implement whatever additional changes are required?
Probably get Brad to start out.
Sure.
I think those new developers are going to.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to begin, there has already been a traffic study done for this project. It documented the potential impact. And based on that traffic study that was done last year was for a larger project than what you have before you this evening. And I think as you may recall, the first hearing, it's 40% less traffic than what was originally projected. You know, that study showed there was no triggering of any improvements based on this project. What this condition does now is, as this project goes along, if the actual traffic being generated is more than what was projected in the traffic study that was done to support this project, then the developer would have to evaluate the access, and if there were some improvements needed to be made, the developer would require them to make that access to their project, for their project. So we have the ability, if that happens. Now, if the traffic assessment during the life of the project comes back and shows it's the same or less, then there's no change to what was already approved, that there's no additional requirements there. As the mayor said, though, they are already, though, committing to making the improvements to 4th Street from the driveway to 50, and also potential for a future 30-foot right-of-way dedication on 4th Street. So it is a pretty standard way. Tara kind of made me feel old there. Because this is actually a pretty typical way, like in the old development regional impacts DRIs, which actually probably in the old days, this would be one. Traffic monitoring throughout the life of a project is typical because honestly, when we do the traffic studies, it's based on the Institute of Traffic Engineers' projection of traffic. It's not real numbers, it's projections, it's estimates. So what we want to know is what's the real impact that's happening, and that's why we have that monitoring as the project moves forward. But there is the ability for the town to relook at that if the traffic counts come back and say, oh, wait a minute, we said there was going to be 200 trips in the peak hour, now there's 800 trips in the peak hour. We got to reassess this.
Is that traffic
Yeah.
study based off of, or where you guys make the analysis from 4th Street and as well as Colonial Drive?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There are traffic engineers here that did the study. If you'd like to, she could add more to that.
Sure, come on up.
Please.
And I laughed at Brad because we were having a conversation
Yeah.
about how old we are.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't really questioning the traffic study, I would like to go. Join me. I'm not questioning the traffic study, I'm just questioning, I find it really curious that after a year after the project is complete, the developer is gonna come, and presumably the developer agreement is complete and finished, that a developer would come back and say, oh yeah, I'm just gonna be great and do something else. I mean, why would a developer do that?
Well, if
The
they,
Well, that's
project
part
is
of the,
complete.
that's why there's a developer agreement. I
When-
mean,
oh,
it's not
okay.
done incomplete. If the year study hasn't been done, then the agreement isn't done incomplete.
But the buildings are up, the COs are granted, everybody, the tenants are in. What is left in the developer agreement to
So
do?
if I read this developer's agreement, and all this got just added, maybe Friday. And it says it's based on the reporting, any transportation improvements are warranted, the developer shall only be responsible for such transportation improvements that are feasible to be constructed within the existing right-of-way at the time of evaluation. If the reporting determines that signal retiming at the intersection of 4th and 50 would correct any deficiencies from the project, the developer should notify the town and FDOT. And no additional improvements would be required. So DOT would have to sit there and go, the timing on this light has to be changed.
Easy,
Yeah.
easy, right? So I'm just thinking, I don't see the point of this at all. I don't see that it really addresses anything that's to the benefit of the town. So, and that's just my comment, it's to y'all. How will you compel a developer to come back a year after a project is completed to do something?
Yeah.
Question to you.
Yeah.
And that's all.
It's a good question, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And I think that we've kind of spelled it out in here that there's an issue that we would, there is an issue that we would, the developer would be responsible for handling that as far as contacting the town and DOT. I know that we've done that at Park, Mike Parker can attest to this, at Front Street and 50, with the influx of traffic that came in from Oakland Park, we extended that timing as well on that light, so we can make that left-hand turn, getting off on 50 as well. So, yeah, so that's what we kind of put in there.
And Mayor, just maybe on the enforcement side, the enforcement part is not in this amendment of the development agreement, because the enforcement side for this development agreement is in the original development agreement that's still in effect, except for as it's being changed here. So say we got to that point and they're not being good actors and not doing what they're said they're required to do by the development agreement, there is a process and procedure in the development agreement about disputes and non-performance that we would then bring in our wonderful town attorney to help us through the enforcement process if that were to occur. So there is an enforcement section of the development order or development agreement that would go into effect if they did not meet that requirement.
If we didn't have that study done a year later, we wouldn't know if the traffic was askew or not. And if it was, then it's their due diligence to go with FDOT and make adjustments with the turning lane or the light, like the mayor had said. So we have that as belts and suspenders for ourselves, for our town. If we don't have it, then we don't know what's gonna happen later.
We don't know, right, yes, sir.
Did you want Myra to come up and, oh, sorry.
Just possibly there's a misunderstanding. The development agreement, for all practical purposes, is the zoning for the property, and they're required to comply with it going forward. So even after all the construction is done, they are stuck with this. They can't violate it. There would be code enforcement processes that would be gone through. So if you thought that this only related to the actual construction, that is not what it all does. It continues on, and there are enforcement processes that would happen, because these aren't condominiums that are being sold, these are leased properties. So there will always be a developer that's actively, whether it's this particular developer or whether it's a subsequent developer, the development agreement will be recorded, and it's essentially, it will be effective going forward. So it is enforceable.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks, that's exactly the answer I was looking for.
Be more specific at it next time. Did you guys want to talk, do you want Myra to come up and talk a little bit about, you might as well, you're here tonight.
Hi, Myra Monreal, your favorite traffic engineer. Myra Planning and Design, 1600 Edgewater Drive, Orlando, Florida. I'm here to answer any questions that public may have. I'm happy to meet after if you want to have a specific question, or if any of the mayor, the commissioners, or councilmen and councilwomen have regarding the condition. I do think, I've worked in Oakland on some of the projects for quite a bit. The fact that they're agreeing to do this traffic monitoring to give you information, right, which is half the battle, shows and underscores how they understand how important this corner is and traffic is. I'll also say, because I do love traffic and transportation, I did go and look at it again before this meeting, and I watched all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars that went through that intersection coming from 4th, and so it just kind of reiterates that signal was timed, right? There's only about 14 seconds of green time because DOT never really expected a lot of cars to come through there. So there was a lot of room for improvement in that because that signal is designed so that traffic on 50 can go east and west. And then you've done this before. Like I remember with a few town managers ago, even the turn, you know, the left turn on a Tubbs, that was adjusted. And so I think this gives you the information so that you can make those adjustments sooner rather than later. And at least be able to attribute it in notes to the project. Because I do know the conditions specifies it's for the project trips, this project, and not necessarily a different future or adjacent project that may or may not come.
Right, and I was gonna say that, when you base the traffic study on this in your report, and I perused through it, it's based on this particular project.
Correct.
And you're basically trying to foretell the future of what could happen here with the amount of residential, the amount of commercial, and what trips would come on 4th Street or 50 or whatever. Yeah.
And we follow the industry standard, which is the ITE trip generation, which is what, again, all the developments that come through the town have to follow that process.
So I'll tell you why I like this 1 year after thing, and Brian and I, again, were laughing about this when we were talking about it, because it's old school stuff, right? So it's old school developers, you kind of know how.
So did you just call me old?
No, me. And it's because you're able to help yourself out in the future, so when somebody starts developing to the west, and it's gonna happen to the west, you have some information that you could use and say, hey, this is what's happening, so when you do the next traffic study, or whoever does the next traffic study, you have that backup in that data to help. Historical data helps out a lot.
Correct. And the same thing, again, because I love talking about transportation. So that signal, you know, is meant for current traffic. Whereas like the turn lanes, like the State Road 50 turn lane, which again, there are about 20-ish homes back there. You know, that State Road 50 turn lane on a 4, that was not just built for those 20 homes. They built that for existing and future traffic. So it's kind of two different scales.
And I think that the developer needs to be on the call with DOT right now, because it will take them that long just to get the road change around.
Any questions?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for the explanation.
Okay, John, come on up.
John Hammerstein, 306 East Vic Avenue. I'm really intrigued about the signage. What's the purpose of the signage on the back of the buildings?
You guys go to that slide, please.
Anybody else?
It faces 50.
Yeah, but what's the purpose of it?
So that people know to advertise the tenants.
Okay, so it's for advertising.
Yeah.
The
Okay,
town.
we gotta have everybody on a microphone, I'm sorry.
Well, what was said in the audience, the purpose of the signage from the builder side is it's for advertising. Is that what the town agrees with too? Is it for advertising?
I think it's for promoting that particular business. So if I had a business that was the front of my business was facing the south, and when people come into 4th Street, and let's say I was insurance sales in State Farm or something like that, I'd want people to know that when they're driving down 50, and it needs to be a modest sign. It can't be a huge sign that takes up the entire side of the wall. And I think that's what we need to kind of look at when plans come in. And I think that adding that to the agreement before they go to permit. But I think, John, just to answer your question, I think for me as a business owner, it would be beneficial and benefit my business
Okay.
to have that.
And the town wants commercial business?
The town does want commercial business.
Okay, well, why wouldn't the town want that signage to be successful for those commercial businesses? Instead of trying to stylize it and hide it?
Agreed, and I think that what you don't want, and that's why that was the comment I made about, I think if you had like an Advent or Orlando Health or a State Farm, those branding colors kind of stop people, they know that, oh, there's my State Farm agent, or there's whatever. I think what we don't want, and if you looked at the first rendering, it was like just littered with signs.
It looked like a NASCAR.
It looked.
I was here.
But I think if we tastefully do that and put them up there where, Orlando Health has its logo, Advent Health has its logo that they use, same State Farm. I don't believe it needs to be plastered, where if it's a suite that's next to each other, you have State Farm, then right next to it, you have ice cream place, or next to that, you have Jersey Mike's, or next to that, it doesn't need to be a continuous strip of signs. I think it just needs to be very tastefully done. And for me, I wouldn't be opposed to saying, okay, can you kind of show us your signage plan for you?
Well, I don't have but a company's gonna come in, they wanna show their logo, right, their brand. And to me, it makes it very difficult for a company to come and say, oh, my main visibility is gonna be restricted. And then we're trying to figure out how to manage that without even knowing who the clients are yet.
Correct.
So I would think totally differently. I would say, based on clientele, based on the number of clientele, is there some way to manage that or advertise for them, maybe not on the building? Or, I mean, it's the back of the building, but, it's a billboard for them. So I just don't want the town to be so stylized over Oakland that it restricts quality businesses from coming in here.
Agreed.
That's all.
Agreed.
Well, and I wanted to kind of go back to signage again, because I brought it up last time, and I don't know if it's even an option about, like, instead of having it across all the back of the buildings, because again, we don't know how many it's gonna be, and we don't wanna, inhibit the opportunities for the developer or for the town to have the businesses. I totally agree with you, John, on that point. I do want it to be aesthetically pleasing, but I had brought up a notion of a monument or something where it's just not as like a strip down the sides of all those buildings. And if there's a way to do, because I know there's other places that, like, I think 1700 Winter Park, they're only allowed a certain height of signs and things like that. Something like that, along the front, I'd even be less opposed to a couple of monuments, even one in front of each building or something that then could have their logo in a smaller scale that I think would be less intrusive than, and again, we don't know, it's all, projection at this point because we don't know, but I agree, I think that we need to either look at another signage option, or I like the idea of a monument. I don't know if that's something that the other commissioners.
Can you guys put the other slide with a monument on it?
But I agree with, there may have to be some condition regarding signage for moving
Commissioner
forward.
Keller, you're looking at that monument there?
Right.
That's what you mean by one?
But there could even be one in front of each building with the tenants of that building. That's something that's, low but visible as you're driving by, street level.
Their color,
Where
their
all
logos.
their colors, their logos, all on a sign that is, excuse me, like I said, there could be one for each building, just something that would be there, because it looks like there's room possibly in there in front of the buildings to maybe put one in front of each building. But just something as opposed to all the signage across the back of the buildings.
You'll already have signs in the front of the building as you walk into the front door of the business.
Well, but again, they gotta be able to, I agree, they gotta be able to see who's in there from 50, because they've got to. I mean, that's gonna be a key selling feature and point to the tenants that take those spaces.
And we are contemplating 3 areas for
Monuments.
For monuments. Yeah. Well,
But
we're looking at them right now.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean.
I would prefer monuments over the signage all over the back of the buildings, if that's an option.
And I think one of the problems with monument only on 50 is the cars go by so fast. So if you're talking about the other lane of traffic, because we really talked about signage a lot between these last 2 hearings. So if you're on the lanes going the opposite direction, if it's low level, they're not possibly seeing it past the cars. Not every car is a Fiat, right? So if you've got a bunch of pickup trucks or cars,
I'm saying, street, like, vehicle level.
Sure.
I mean, it doesn't have to, and again, depending upon how many tenants are in the building, if it's one block, there could, there's gonna be room for multiple, and if there's one tenant, they could have the whole monument.
What I was just told is that we are projecting 7 tenants in the building, so that would be a max of 7 tenants if they were in there. So the amount of signage is not that significant. I mean, your code even says wall signs shall be designed to be compatible with the storefront and scale, proportions. I mean, there's a lot that goes into your sign code in talking about how they needed to be mounted in locations that respect the design of a building, including the arrangement of bays and the openings. They want them oriented toward automobiles and pedestrians on the far side of the street, right, so that it's visible for those going in both directions down 50. And it really is critical for us to be able to pull in best-in-class tenants. I mean, they want to have, I've never had a tenant that didn't want to have some wall signage. You know, so I can understand not wanting to have just massive, right, but I think the scale of what we can have in terms of the copy area is also constrained by this proportionality provision in your code. So if Advent Health came, you're not just gonna see Advent Health, you know, stretched across the entire building. It talks about how the copy area, again, has to have the compatibility in terms of overall scale. And so those sign plans come back, your staff does a review on each of them as they come in. Again, we want this to be a success, you know, and part of those conversations and attracting tenants is really.
That is the key. We want those businesses to be successful so they can
Yeah.
stay here. Not
And to stay open.
Right, and we want that too.
Yeah.
And we want that too.
And I appreciate what you're saying. We don't want to look like an F1 car, right? I mean, that's not the objective. But again, if we're talking about 7 bays and you're constrained in terms of how much copy area you can get on each of those linear feet of frontage, the signage I don't think is going to be as overwhelming as perhaps it might have seemed in just a mock-up, but it really is going to be something that's important for us because we've planned for so much landscaping along 52, and we have the tree lines there, but we don't want to cover up our building so much that nobody can see them because we still want to pull people in. So we would really appreciate being able to work within your signage and the constraints, the sign code and the constraints that you all have in there. And to trust that your staff is going to do that type of professional review as we come in for permits for each of those sign plans.
And Mayor, I can confirm, on their plan, there is a notation, a note on there that does explicitly say all signage shall be done in compliance with the town sign code. So we do have that already on the plan showing that, as Tara just mentioned, whatever they'll come in with will have to meet all of those standards.
Or do we want to go back to where?
Yeah, I would have to know what Becky said, like how we, because I think we may need to have something more, have it come back for a review before it's approved. I think that that's something we need to consider.
Steve Healy, I'm on the development side. I cannot invest, I'm just gonna be completely honest with you. I can't invest in the plans to bring them back. It's, you know, this is probably close to $1 million to get the plans done, and I'm not gonna do that. And then go through the, you know, we don't like the back doesn't work. You know, we've changed it, we've done it, we've got to appeal to tenants. This is, I hate to say it, it's where we're at, so. Okay.
Okay, anyone else have any comments out in the audience? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public comment. Bring it back to the table and discuss and make a motion. Or amendments or whatever you want.
I still think we need to have some kind of checks and balance on the signage, is my personal belief. So, you know, I mean, I don't know if the drawings really show the scale of the signage, or they're just renderings, so they don't really show the scale to our code, Brad. I mean,
No, I would not say they would be compliant, because we don't have enough information about the signage to be able to say that at this point.
And my concern is approving things as, I mean, I understand that they're saying that they will comply within our codes, but, you know, we can't visually see what that's gonna look like, and we don't know what it's gonna be like down the road, and I'm not comfortable with just approving something and hoping that it works out.
But I think also you have a code in place to protect us already that says signage can only be X amount of square feet of copy area. on a space, and if a space is 2,000 square feet, wall frontage on that is, 30 feet. So they only get 30 square feet of copy area, which is not a lot.
Is that what it is?
It's 1 linear feet it's 1 linear feet, 1 square foot for every linear feet.
Actually, I was double checking myself here, it's actually 1.5 for each primary building frontage. So there's a large, but as Tara said, that's the maximum. But then there's the other conditions for signage that bring that down, the proportionality, the consistency with the overall design of the building, and those kinds of things. So even though potentially there could be a monster sign based on 1.5, that would never be real because of the other limitations that we as your staff have to assure when we review it. And the young lady that would be doing most of the reviews, and I will tell you that Sarah is very diligent in your code and making sure it's compliant. So I know what I'm saying is trust us. That's always terrible to say when I work for government. But ultimately, it is our job to make sure that we enforce your code properly. We also work very closely with your town manager on issues if they become difficult or controversial. We have the conversations with your town manager. So I do believe we can have a good signage plan without having to come back to you. But I will also say it's your prerogative as town commission, if that's what you want, make that a condition. But I do want to say you can trust us that we will implement your code.
Based on your design that you guys put in the back of the house, I don't think there's enough room to put a big, eyesore sign anyways. The way the design is made in the back with the pilasters and the brick and the inserted siding, I don't even think there's enough room there based on the different elevations of the wall that go in and out, jogging in and out, for you to put, an eyesore of a sign. So, I'm fine with the way it is right now, and I trust the staff, and I trust that they were gonna do the right thing for the tenants that come forward, and it's by the code that we have it already, so they're not violating or pushing beyond it, so.
Well, understanding that there's other constraints too, I think helps to narrow that down to making sure that it's all in compliance. So I appreciate that clarification.
Okay, anyone else? No? Okay, so if nothing else, let's have a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to accept ordinance 2025-06.
Second, anybody?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here's the bill. All right, so we'll let you guys leave and then we'll. All right. Thank you, guys. Okay, so moving on to the public forum, and I think Jill, you may have something to promote and keep promoting.
Jill Cox, 301 North Walker Street. I'm talking about the parade again. It's going to be on the 13th, Saturday. Starts in Spear Park at 5 p.m. There's no entrance fee and there will be prizes. Prizes. And I went to the map that we did last year and added a few more streets because we have more subdivisions that are built out now. And Kevin and I did it, and it's about 45 minutes. We start at Spear Park and we end up at the History on Petrus. That's where we're going to end up at. I have that to pass out And then also, I have a suggestion, but I know somebody that's gonna say no. Because he says no all the time. But, you know, we have Whole Island and we have that part of the neighborhood that can't be part of anything because of the curb. But Mike Parker talked about fixing behind the cemetery, Walker Street Cemetery, putting the golf cart trail so that would connect to Longleaf where you are. So if,
But it's not there yet.
but I'm saying eventually when that is done, if we can make from the trail side, the bridge, the three-way stop to your entrance, 25 miles an hour, that would get the golf carts to our side of the town. Just think about it. I know he says no. You're gonna say no. But anyway, but that's the map and then that's the suggestion. So, I just talked to people in Whole Island and they're like, hey, when are y'all gonna let us come?
They can come anytime they want.
Yeah, but how they get there?
Trailer?
Down the trail. Right, anything on the trail now. So, that's the map. Yeah, but I didn't give you the suggestion.
Oh, suggestion.
Yeah, that's the
Oh.
suggestion. Yeah.
Alternative routes.
Yes. And I have ordered a banner,
Oh.
which is hopefully will go when the Chiefs run is done, or somewhere. Because you always have a Santa thing up there. And then also some signs I'm gonna put in all these subdivisions to let them know. And I've been talking to people in Winter Garden, because Winter Garden's parade is $100
Oh.
entrance fee. And so there's a lot of people in Winter Garden that aren't happy, and I said, come over our way. We
They
always
get
go your way.
prizes? They get
So-
prizes in Winter Garden?
Yes, they do, and we're giving prizes, but we have no entrance fee. So that's it.
Thank you, Jill. Oh, sorry, Jill, what was the times again? Can you go?
It starts at 5 p.m. gathering in Spear Park. So we're just gonna kind of wrap around Spear Park, and then the sun sets at 5:31.
Okay, so then, just everybody shows up at 5,
Yeah,
and
shows
about
up and
5:30
then,
you'll head out.
yeah, so, and we can do our judging then too, with everybody lined up, try to figure out. Or we might even designate houses for people to be the judges.
Oh, no, I like that.
I like that, Jill? Okay, so, thank you.
Thank you. Hey, John, you got something, John? No? Anyone else? Any other comments from anybody else? If not, we'll close the public hearing and we'll move on to the town manager's reports.
Well, that was fun. I think I'm going to keep it really brief. We have an HR manager. I sent you information on her. She's starting on November 24th. And then we just made an offer for Public Works Admin Assistant. So she's doing her background screening and hopefully all that comes back and she can be on board pretty soon. And then Andrew, we just have utility billing clerk left and then we will be back up full. So that's kind of where we're at with all of our town positions. And then I just want to cover a couple of events. So starting November 15th, the Oakland Camera Club is helping with, it's called the Sky Remembers exhibit over at the Arts and Heritage Center. I stopped by today, the art's not hung, but it's beautiful. I'm super excited for that exhibit. That'll run through January 9th. And then a week later, November 22nd, will be the start. It's 5K with the 5-0, but it's also the start of the Trees of the Season exhibit. And that'll run through January 3rd. And then Santa's Lane will be December 6th from 3 to 6. And just a reminder on farmers markets, we have one this Thursday, but on Thanksgiving week, it will revert to the Tuesday. So it'll be the 13th and the 25th this month. And that's all I have.
Okay. You want to do an introduction to Garrett real quick?
Okay, well, Garrett Olson is a Superior lawyer, and he's been with our firm for
Almost 5 years.
Okay, 5 years, and he is really knowledgeable about local government law. And as I think y'all know, our firm only does local government law, and we're city attorney or town attorney or village attorney for 15 municipalities now. So, yeah, Garrett's, you're lucky to have him. He's fantastic, and so there won't be two lawyers sitting here in the future. It'll be Garrett.
Thank you, Garrett.
And Barrett, it's very nice to meet you and all the commissioners, and all staff earlier today. I drove around town earlier before the meeting. You guys have a wonderful community, and I look forward to working with all of you and staff.
Thank you. Welcome aboard. Ty, nothing? Like, please on the spot. Andrew? Okay. Sarah?
Okay.
Gabby? Gabby, you were gonna come up with something today.
I literally came up with a presentation for you. I worked on it all day.
Okay. Brad, anything new?
Nothing to add, sir.
All right, Mike, Parker?
Yes, sir. Let me just say that the Christmas tree will be erected this week in the town fountain area, Wednesday or Thursday this week.
Okay. All right.
That's it.
Thank you, Mike. Chief?
November 22nd is the 5K with the 5-0, and it's only the third year we've done it, and it is actually sold out this year.
Oh, nice.
It's very impressive, doing a race with good fun, so the community, 150 is registered. Anybody else can still register, they just won't get a medal, they'll get the shirt. We just couldn't purchase any more medals, but that's super exciting. Now, so the golf cart parade. I will volunteer. We received our new federally funded side-by-side. It has been upfitted with lights, sirens. It is a fantastic resource that we have now. It's part of the police department. I was gonna bring it today, but quite honestly, it's too cold. But I would like to volunteer the side-by-side to lead the parade.
That would be great.
I won't be driving it because I'll be out of the country, but we have training. Another agency's gonna come here and train people that are interested in learning how to operate it so we can safely operate it. And then, once we have a couple people trained up, there's some that will volunteer to drive it for the golf cart parade. As for this first page, this map, I'm gonna say yes. Other than that, I have not. First page.
Chief. Okay. Commissioner Cameron?
I have nothing.
Wow, okay.
Hey, Mike, is there any plans for decorating the acorn on the roundabout?
Not at this point. There could be.
I like the sound of that.
Thank you. We just for the record, we don't have electricity out there, so that might be an issue.
We don't.
I'll just hold the flashlight up.
Solar power or something, battery powered. Anyway.
Maybe we can
We'll look at it.
pre-plan for next year.
Oh, we put in time for future electric, we just don't have the electric in yet.
Great. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, so I was at the Metro Plan Orlando last week, November 6th, representing our town, and talked to Miss Taylor Laurent. I'm sure you know who she is, Mike, because she mentioned you, and she's actually one of our residents here. And we spoke about the sidewalks on Open Avenue, and if we can get FDOT or Metro Plan to fund them. And they mentioned that in 3 weeks, the applications are gonna be open for 2026 to get the federal grant applied through Metro Plan, so we can get that funded or get in line for it. And there's a strong possibility that we will be one of the ones picked, because we've been ignored for so many years already. I've been, asking like a broken faucet, and she says, we know, just tell my partner to get the application going so we can get you guys in front of the line for sidewalks on Oakland Avenue that go to the school.
Okay, no, that sounds very good. Thank you.
All right, the only thing I had was, to celebrate, I'd like to do the employment anniversaries, and we have 10 years, for Denise Byrne from the, Oakland Nature Preserve, so congratulations for being there for 10 years, and then I'm going to talk about what I have at 5K and kind of golf carts. Other than that, Joseph?
All hearts and minds are satisfied, let's adjourn, it is now 50 p.m. Stay warm.
Happy Thanksgiving.